The next cluster of problems deals with control charts, and here's the question. A breakfast bar produced by a company is known to have a mean sodium level of 110 milligrams, a known standard deviation of 10 milligrams. The quality control department takes samples of 5 bars off the assembly line each hour. What are the control limits for this chart? We construct a control chart in the following way. We start with sigma x bar, which is the population standard deviation divided by the square root of n. So in this case, our standard deviation was 10. The sample sizes are 5 bars each, so we have 10 over the square root of 5, or 4.47 for each of the sigma x bars. Notice we start with the mean, which is 110 at the very center of the chart, and then the limits add a standard deviation each time. So we're going to 1, 2, 3 standard deviations above the mean. So we add 4.47 and we get 114.47. We add another 4.47 and we get 118.94. We add one more 4.47 and we get 123.41. We do the same thing in the other direction. We subtract 4.47, we get 105.53. Then we subtract another 4.47, we get 101.06, and then we subtract one more, we get 96.59. So these are the control limits: 1, 2, 3 standard deviations above the mean, 1, 2, 3 standard deviations below the mean. Then number 15 asks the question, in an 8-hour shift, 8 samples were gathered, 112, 108, 113, and so on. Graph the data points in the control chart and tell whether this process is in or out of control for this shift. If it's out of control, explain why. By the way, I just want to point out the rules covered in the video are no points are beyond 3 standard deviation. That's for something to be in control. Only 1 point is beyond 2 standard deviations. No run of 4 or 5 points is between 1 and 2 standard deviations, and no run 8 points or above or below the mean. So those are generally the rules we use for this. So we find all these points, and we recognize that there was 1 point that is over 3 standard deviations away from the mean. This is out of control because the 7th point is 125 is more than 3 standard deviations from the mean. So actually everything else looked in control except for that one wild point, and if it's far enough out, in this case 3 standard deviations, then the process is deemed out of control for this process. Number 16, in an 8-hour shift, looks like we have more variation, but we graph the points again, and we find that some are out, some are above, some are below. This is within 1 standard deviation. These are within 2 standard deviations, and even though this looks like it has more variation, this actually is in control. There's no points beyond 3 standard deviations. There's only 1 point beyond 2 standard deviations, this point. No run of 4 or 5 is between 1 or 2, so we don't have a run in either direction, and there's no run of 8 points above or below the mean. So for the 4 rules that were covered in the video, this actually is in control. You want to watch the program number 18 for sample, mean, and control charts for the details of these rules, but those were the control chart problems for practice 2.